Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of Hilal Live. I'm your host, Luqman Shadrack. Thanks for watching us on channel 347 on DSTV, also on our live stream, www.hilal.tv. Now, in today's episode, we delve into the complex and insidious world of narcissistic manipulation. Those importantly within the intimate relationships. We also explore the fundamental tactics and strategies used by narcissists to control and exploit their partners. Joining us via our Zoom link up is life coach and mental health advocate and also an author, Rabia Carvalho. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Rabia. Thanks for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here.
My absolute pleasure. And we encourage our viewers to be part of the show by emailing me. If you have any questions, queries, concerns, it's luqman@hilal.tv. Now, Rabia, you've written a book called A Cult of One, Decoding the Weapons of Narcissistic Control and Manipulation. What prompted you to write this book?
Well, the book has been in progress for the last 3 years, and it's actually the book that I wish that I had had. It's the manual I wish I'd had at a time when I was living through narcissistic abuse. Being a social worker for the last 32 years now, I've also counseled many women through and out of abuse, and I've always wanted there to be one place, together with quizzes that can help victims and survivors to begin to heal from the scars that you actually don't see. We don't get closure as victims. The only thing we can hope is to understand and to begin to heal. And so the book arose from that, and it contains stories from my own experience as well as from my clients' experience, and really key pointers on how to heal, beside, of course, the quizzes that they can take.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm sure it's a good read and also very helpful for those that are possibly going through something like this now as well. But if you just take a step back, in your opinion, what is the definition of narcissism, and are all abusers narcissistic?
That is such a great question. You see, the word narcissism normally means an excessive interest or admiration in oneself. Now, narcissists take this a step further, because when it comes to narcissistic emotional or psychological abuse, it's an excessive self-interest that's coupled with a really deep-seated low self-esteem.
Okay.
And that causes narcissists to see themselves as having the authority and the legitimation to humiliate, degrade, manipulate, use and abuse their victims in a variety of ways. And of course, through processes like trauma bonding and neural rewiring, victims are unable to change their circumstances. So whereas narcissism seems like a very simple explanation, an excessive interest, these people really lack empathy, not completely. They have selective empathy, so they can fake it. But essentially, it is a destructive self-interest.
Now, these traits can be rather subtle for someone that's caught up in a relationship, an intimate relationship, and not always can identify. But how do we know that we're dealing with a narcissist?
Well, the first telltale sign, of course, is love bombing. And often when in a new relationship, this love bombing is such that we think, oh, it's just wonderful. They really care and there's all of this attention. So there are quizzes in this book that actually help you to identify, is this love bombing for real? Because, care and attention can also be overwhelming in those early days. But love bombing is a red flag. Excessive admiration, too much too soon. If it seems too real, too good to be true, it probably is. And we expect narcissists to be that over-the-top, self-inflated egomaniacs. But the truth is that unless you're looking for those red flags, you often miss them. Love bombing is a huge sign of it. Gaslighting, blame shifting, making you believe that your version of reality doesn't really exist. That's abuse.
Sure. Quite a lot to digest, and often enough people ignore the warning signs and possibly, just go on with life. But are there different types of narcissists? And if so, which are the ones that we should look out for the most? Which is the pertinent right on top of the list that you just mentioned?
Okay, so there's about 7 types that I go through. There are 7 types exactly in my book, and I go through what they are and what kind of the makeup is and the attitude is of those particular narcissists. But the two that I find the most dangerous, the first one is the malignant narcissist, because they are in your face. They are angry, they are entitled, they have to be first in the queue, they need special treatment. Those are, although they're easy to spot, people who are codependent may see that as an intimate partner being protective, when in actual fact, it's them being controlling, manipulative. So it's difficult to spot. The other one that's very difficult to spot is the covert narcissist, because a covert narcissist sends 2 signals to their partner. The first one is, I'm such a great chap or lady, I'm such a great person, I'm a great catch. But also, you need to feel sorry for me because I have this background, this history that you are going to be responsible for. So everything that they have been through becomes your responsibility. And in trying to help the loved partner, we sometimes make the mistake of taking on ownership for their baggage, and that opens us up to abuse. So those are the 2, I would say, that are the most complicated ones, hardest to deal with.
We're chatting to life coach and mental health advocate and also an author of the book A Cult of One, Decoding the Weapons of Narcissistic Control and Manipulation, Sister Rabia Carvalho, giving us valuable advice around a very important topic. Rabia, often enough people throw around the word narcissist, and is that not maybe giving the word power and taking away what people really go through?
That's such a good question as well. Absolutely. It is taking away power, because we are saying, well, it's a narcissist, so it's okay. It's almost like it's a label that gives them further permission instead of being a label that says this is a warning. That should be a red flag label.
Absolutely. Now, your book refers to many manipulation and control tactics that narcissists employ, and how to spot them. That's very important, because people need to, read that very carefully. But are there ways in which we can easily identify if we are being manipulated?
Yes. So there is a diagnostic tool called the DSM-5, and the DSM-5 is a tool. It's the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Illnesses, basically. And it was in 1980 that they actually defined the things that make up a narcissist. So there are basically 9 criteria, and you need to match at least 5. So to go really quickly through them for the listeners who want to know: a sense of grandiosity, a pervasive pattern of grandiosity. Preoccupation with fantasies that they're going to be powerful and brilliant is number 2. Believing that they are inherently special and so they need special treatment. Needing excessive admiration, a sense of entitlement. Interpersonally exploitative behavior, so they have all the rights but none of the duties. A lack of empathy or selective empathy. Envy of other people, and then arrogant behaviors or attitudes. Those are literally the 9 criteria in the DSM-5. And yet you do not really need an official diagnosis, because 10 to 1, if you're with a narcissist or no one in the family, you'll be able to pick these out quite quickly. And if it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Now, all too often abusers use emotional threats and the cycle of abuse that, innates basically to victims. Is it only codependent people who fall for these, or does the average person miss those red flags? Are they so hidden that we tend to just blatantly ignore them?
They are actually very, very well hidden, because the narcissists are so great at gaslighting and they're so great at making you question your version of reality. Everybody falls for this. Then, of course, there is our own brain. The way that our brain works, the way that our brain is wired, the way that we receive audio and visual input actually causes us to sabotage ourselves and to look for the good in the narcissist, which is one of the reasons that people stay as well. So codependents are easier to hoodwink and to get trauma bonded by a narcissist, because they are very willing to take on ownership for the narcissist's suffering. But most people are open to abuse by narcissists. It just takes the right narcissist at the wrong time, unfortunately.
Rabia, how are the victims of narcissistic abuse impacted? And maybe share with us what are some of the symptoms of these types of abuse, since I'm sure there are many.
Yes.
A lot of signs may not be physical as well.
Definitely. So you'll find that with the narcissistic abuse continuing and that cycle of love bombing and devaluation getting you deeper and deeper into a trauma bond, because you're always looking for that person that you saw initially, right? That's how you get hooked. You find that the person becomes worn down emotionally and mentally. And with that comes a breakdown, not just of emotional and mental capacities, but also of the physical body. So there's insomnia, there is depression, there is an inability to cope. People lose the ability to even know what it is that I like, what it is that I want from life. It disappears into the void of the narcissist's wills. So then there's weight gain and there's weight loss, there's skin conditions, digestive issues that come from the excess of cortisol constantly pumping into our body. And again, excessive weight gain, particularly for people who are then the weight gain is compounded by things like menopause for women or andropause for men. So these symptoms are so vast and so varied that sometimes you think it's just a weak immune system. Recurring illnesses. You go from a sore back to sore joints to a headache to eyesight issues and you can't quite localize. If you're constantly experiencing different illnesses, it may be just too much cortisol in the body.
On tonight's episode, we're chatting about understanding narcissistic manipulation with Sister Rabia Carvalho, who's a life coach and mental health advocate, and also an author of the book A Cult of One. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we chat a bit more to Sister Rabia. Thanks for watching us on Channel 347 on DSTV. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to Hilal Live. Thanks for watching us on Channel 347 on DSTV. Today's topic, we delve into the complex and insidious world of narcissistic manipulation. With us, joining us via Zoom is life coach and mental health advocate and also an author of the book A Cult of One, Sister Rabia Carvalho. Rabia, jazakallah so much once again for joining us and affording us your time to cover this valuable topic.
It's only a pleasure. We really do need to help people out
For
there.
sure. Early on, you mentioned something called DSM-5, and you also mentioned a criteria, and that we might be able to use those to actually better understand if the person we are connected to is a possible narcissist. Can you maybe share those criteria with us right now?
All right, let's go through those criteria again. So the first is a pervasive sense of grandiosity. The person comes across as grandiose. They have this, whether in their fantasies that they're going to be these billionaires or whatever the case may be, and they're very preoccupied with those fantasies. That's your second criteria. The third criteria is that they really believe that they are special. And for that reason, they won't stand in a queue. They need special treatment. And the fourth, of course, is they need excessive admiration. You do need to keep boosting their ego because remember, you're responsible for everything that they went through in the past. So you have all the duties, they have all the rights. The fifth one then is the sense of entitlement. They are owed it, they deserve it. Sixth is an interpersonal exploitative behavior. They will take advantage of others for their own needs, and that includes lies and deception. Then there's a lack of empathy or selective empathy. So you'll find that they kind of commiserate with people, but only the people in a position that they think will benefit them. There is envy of others is the eighth. And lastly, the really arrogant behaviors of attitudes. It doesn't mean that they are always like this, because a narcissist, remember, is going to devalue and then love bomb or hoover you again. So they're going to go through periods of being great, but these are the criteria. And you need to meet 5 of these criteria at least in order to officially be diagnosed with having narcissistic personality disorder, which is a personality and a mental health disorder.
So as we go deeper into this topic, I'm learning so much and obviously identifying various traits as well. However, who knew that there were, so many types of narcissists as well. But if you could highlight, the most concerning, or one that we should really, really look out for? What are those, Rabia?
I would say, as we said earlier, our covert narcissists, the one that swings from feel sorry for me all the way to you need to do for me. The covert narcissist is the first. And the second then is your malignant narcissist. A malignant narcissist really is something to look out for. The good way to kind of know if you're being lied to, manipulated by a narcissist, is to keep a journal. It's a key point. If you can keep a journal and they are trying to tell you, the malignant narcissist and the covert narcissist, that what you remember didn't happen that way, and if it did, then it was your fault, you can go back to the journal and you can check how you felt, you can check what happened at the time, and that's a good way to spot them when they are so difficult to pick up.
But I think the key and the most important thing here is the ripple effect that this type of behavior can have on the family, the children, the extended family, in-laws, things like that. Surely they get roped into all of this.
They do, because often the narcissist has what we call flying monkeys. And so they are this little group around them that kind of protects them and shelters them. Firstly, because it's easier for you to deal with them than for them to deal with them. And secondly, because if they have this a narcissist protected, then the narcissist is not going to turn against themselves. So these flying monkeys will often make life more difficult for family members. And you will find that they will say to you things like, oh, just make sabr, or just be patient. Unfortunately, many society members do that as well. Tell people, just be patient, just make sabr. This is your akhirah. And honestly, from an Islamic perspective, Allah says, I have made oppression haram for me. How dare you oppress, right? So that really has no place if we're trying to help victims of narcissistic abuse.
So let's look at the family structure. Maybe somebody doesn't know they're a narcissist. Maybe they have this behavior and they're unaware that this is what a narcissist is. Can they get help for this? That's number one. And two, the victims of a narcissist, surely they would need some help. And how does the family situation, how do they go for help together?
Okay, so the first thing is to understand and to accept that there is a problem. And that's the most important part, because often victims don't get that. The cycle has them so trapped and so trauma bonded that they don't want to hurt and they don't want to disappoint the person that's abusing them. They have been rewired mentally to not judge them, basically. So the family also doesn't know, is this just, are they borderline? Are they antisocial? Do they maybe have a histrionic personality disorder? They don't realize the extent of the destructiveness of narcissistic abuse. So that whole family gets caught into this trap, basically, and becomes trauma bonded, making it even harder for the victim to leave. I'm not sure if that answers your question entirely.
No, I think it does. It gives me an idea on how we can move past a behavior like this and also, avoid some of the ripple effect that most families...
You asked if the narcissist can get help. So
Yes.
The narcissist can go for constant counseling. They will never change. That is one thing. A narcissist cannot change. But what they can do is they can learn, if they're in constant counseling, they can learn cues and consequences. For instance, if the victim is crying, the narcissist's typical approach is, what are you crying for? You see, now you're making me feel guilty, flipping it around and making it worse for the victim. Whereas a narcissist that is in ongoing counseling will learn that because they cannot show empathy, at the very least, they will say nothing to not make the issue worse. But they will never do it automatically of their own volition. It doesn't come naturally because it is a disorder.
Okay. Going back to your book, where can our audience pick up a copy of your book? How accessible is it? Give us some social media handles.
Okay, so they can find me, if they can email me on info@Lifecoach.Rabia, all one word.com, or they can go to my website, www.RabiaCarvalho.com. The book will be available on Amazon by the end of January. At the moment, it is available directly from me and also from the Yellen Sarah bookshop in Overport.
Okay, so the book itself, do you conduct workshops? Do you conduct one-on-one sessions? What is your method that you choose?
So as a social worker, I find that it really depends on where the person is at. So individual counseling is where we start with trauma counseling, guiding the person through, taking them through their story, allowing them to express their emotions and find their own answers. But I have created a course that is now formalized and will run again in mid-February. So folks who want to sign up for that can again go to the website or email me info@lifecoach.Rabia.com and get information on that course. And the course is all about how to heal, whether you're in it or after you've left, because these things leave scars that can last a lifetime and that can have repercussions on our other relationships, family, friends, and work.
For those that are listening and watching us, and often may refer to some of the information you've given tonight, may also hit home sometimes a little closer, and some people unfortunately may ignore the signs. What is your message to those watching this interview?
My message to the viewers is, firstly, don't ignore the red signs, the red flags. Don't ignore them. If your gut is telling you that there is a problem, start to keep a journal, because your gut will change over time as your brain changes. We refer to our gut as our instinct. So please trust your instinct and do not believe that this is your fault or that you let it happen. People will tell you let it happen. Why did you stay so long? The more you understand about it, and if you get the book, you'll understand it a little bit further, you will understand that your own brain works against you. So please do not let someone say to you, oh, just, make sabr and stay. Abuse is not okay.
Yeah. It's definitely a tool for those that face themselves in this situation as well. But, if you can reiterate, what is your aim on why you wrote this book?
The book is the information that I wish I'd had. My aim with this book is to help people to see the truth, to find their personal freedom, and to heal emotionally, mentally, and physically, because too many lives are being destroyed by narcissism. It is on the rise. It is not gender specific, and it is at the root of all types of abuse, because whether it's physical, emotional, mental, psychological, sexual abuse, all of these types of abuse require that one person believe that their rights are greater than yours.
Life coach and mental health advocate, and also author of A Cult of One, Sister Rabia Carvalho. It's been an absolute pleasure. Jazakallah so much for affording us your time. We'd like to invite you back sometime to maybe unpack a bit further as well. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah. Inshallah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And that's how we end tonight's edition of Hilal Live. We're back tomorrow between 7 and 7:30 from the Cape Town team. Sohail Barnes, Mohammed Parker, and myself, Luqman Shadrack. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.